Hi there. Today I'm going to make a few changes to the WordPress 2019 theme. If I look at the sample page that ships out with WordPress, when I'm using the 2019 theme, it's fairly boring. There's a few things that I'd like to change on this. So let's just have a look at the finished result. And what I'll be doing is, first of all, styling the social icons. Then I'll work on the headline, in particular getting rid of that grey bar along the top of it, which for some reason I found really annoying. I'm then going to apply a class to the block quotes because I don't feel they stand out enough by default. And finally I'm going to widen and center the content. There's actually two ways that I can show you to do that, and we'll look at that in a little more depth when we get to it. So let's just dive in. I'm going to my dashboard and appearance, customize, and I'm going to the additional CSS panel down here. Now if you already have some code in here, don't worry, just paste the stuff that I'm going to give you in at the top. So here's the first class that we want, and as you probably saw, the social icons changed colour. The default width for these I think is 40 pixels, so I've made them smaller, I've given them a little more margin, and I've chosen the colour to be steel blue. Let's publish that, and we'll refresh the sample page and make sure that that's worked. Okay, that looks good, so we'll move on to the next thing, which is getting rid of this line above the main H1 headline. So I'm going to paste in my next class, and as soon as I paste that in, you can see that that line is now gone. What I did was I got the original class from the theme style sheet and I've modified that to say display none. We'll publish this and just refresh the testing page here. Excellent. So the next thing is I'm going to actually change the font and style of the main headings. So I'll paste in my class now, and it's all looking good. I will publish and refresh the page just to check. Now I do actually recommend that rather than using this custom class for your headlines, that you go and get the Easy Google Fonts plugin. It makes things much easier, and you can get it from WordPress. It's by Titanium Themes. However, I couldn't be bothered getting the plugin, so I'm just going to go with that custom class. The next thing we'll look at is doing the block quotes. So let's go to the sample page, which has got the quotes on them, and you can see what we want to do here. These are taking up the full width and they're just not standing out at all. So let's do something about that. Paste in my classes. There are actually 3 of them, and the first one is for the overall block quote class, which is changing the margins because I've indented it a little bit, and I've changed the border color and width. The next class is for the paragraph or paragraphs inside the block quote, so that's this part here. And the final class in there is the citation, and all I've done is I've changed the font size and changed the color. So we'll publish that, and again I'll go back and we'll just refresh the page and make sure that that's changed. Excellent. So the next thing we're going to move on to is centering the content. For a start, I'm going to show you the quick, easy and dirty way of doing this, which you may or may not want to do. So I'll paste in my class now, and we'll click publish, and go back and refresh this test page. Well, as you can see, the content is nicely centered, but here's the drawback. This image, if you recall when we looked at the page originally, was full width. Now it's not, and the reason for that is that this is targeting the page ID. That's normally full width, which then allows the full width images to go from one side to the other of your screen. But because we've set a maximum width on it, it means that images like that can't spread out. And if you're intending on using featured images, for example, I'll show you a page with a featured image, it means that those don't spread out to full width either. However, if you're not intending on using the full width blocks and you're not intending on using featured images, this might do for you. However, I'm not going to do that myself. I've got another way that I think is better. So let's just click publish, and I'll refresh this page just so that you can see that the featured image goes back to the full width again. So let's go and grab the CSS for doing the let's just go and grab some new CSS classes, and we'll do the centering while still maintaining our full width images. So I'm going to paste in my new classes for centering the content, and I'll click publish, and we'll go back and refresh the page. I'm looking at the one that's with the featured image, and as you can see that's still there, but our content is now centered. So let's go back to the original page we were looking at, and it looks like everything's in place now. So that pretty well wraps it up. You can do any of these classes individually or do all of them, whatever suits you. Thanks for watching.